The galaxy far, far away is an incredibly detailed and ever-growing place. One overflowing with mysteries that have actually still not been solved to this day. Thankfully though, not all Star Wars mysteries have been left annoyingly unanswered. Some were even secretly solved long ago. Because I am Gareth, this is What Culture Star Wars, and here are 8 Star Wars mysteries you didn't know were answered. Number 8. Why did Vader stress no disintegrations? He may not have uttered all that many lines in the original trilogy, but whenever he did, the iconic Boba Fett certainly made them count. And his small part in an exchange with the Dark Lord of the Sith himself, Darth Vader, during Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, left many wondering what in the hell he'd been up to in the time before showing up on the Executor Star Dreadnought. As Vader tells the various bounty hunters he gathered on the ship he'd offer a substantial reward for the person who could bring him the Millennium Falcon, he notes that they can use any method necessary as long as the crew are brought back alive. And it's here when he stresses to Fett in particular that there would be no disintegrations, with Boba replying with a simple "as you wish." Folks long wondered why Vader would chuck out such a specific threat at Fett here, but it was eventually revealed in the From a Certain Point of View anthology book that this was actually a response to Boba's actions on Coruscant before the events of Empire. You see, Fett ended up disintegrating 3 rebel spies with a weapon accelerator when they tried to attack him on that planet. And then when he tried to collect the bounty on them, an incensed Vader refused to pay up due to there now being no bodies. In other words, Vader knew what Fett was capable of in Episode 5, and made a point out of ensuring there would not be a repeat of the Coruscant debacle. Thanks for checking out this video today, folks. Now hit that subscribe button down below for more of this What Culture Star Wars stuff in your day. Number 7. Who did the skull in Jabba's palace belong to? Now you'd be forgiven for perhaps initially assuming that Luke Skywalker had opted to hurl a rock at the button used to lower a door onto an incoming Rancor during Episode 6 Return of the Jedi. But if you really focus on that projectile, as many a Star Wars fan has over the years, you'll actually spot that this was a skull being used to take down the beast within Jabba's palace. And if you're scratching your own head wondering precisely which individual had suffered the wrath of the Rancor and been reduced to little more than bones, well, that mystery was solved away from the film. As revealed in the Tales from Jabba's Palace Legends anthology book, Corellian pirate Bidlo Quirv was a rival of Bib Fortuna at one point, with both of them vying to become Jabba the Hutt's Major Domo. But it was Fortuna who earned that title in the end, as when offered the role of Major Domo or a greater honour, Quirv greedily went for the latter. However, said honour was actually simply becoming the first person Jabba's new pet would chow down on, after being dropped through the same trapdoor that Luke would be in Episode 6. At least he got a bit of revenge in the end though, with Bidlo's own flying skull later being used to kill the monster that had taken his own life. Number 6. What was that business on Cato Nemoidia? There's a point there, right after Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker successfully bring the Chancellor back to Coruscant in Revenge of the Sith, where the 2 Jedi generals talk about all the times the latter had saved the former's skin. While Skywalker noted that his saving of Kenobi during that movie opening mission was the 10th time he'd done such a thing, Obi-Wan was quick to state that it was only the 9th, claiming that business on Cato Nemoidia doesn't count. For years, the average Star Wars lover wasn't really aware of what said business actually consisted of, but the information is actually out there to discover in both the Legends, Labyrinth of Evil and canon Brotherhood books. In that former 2005 novel, it's explained that after accidentally cracking open a nearby canister with deflected blaster fire during a fight with droids during the siege of Cato Nemoidia, Obi-Wan ended up breathing in some toxic spores. This left him in a somewhat intoxicated state for a spell, though that still couldn't stop him slicing through Separatist forces. Still, there's a chance a slightly out of sorts Kenobi could have eventually been killed in action, had it not been for Anakin giving him back the rebreather he'd briefly lost. The 2022 Brotherhood tale contains its own version of the business, with that canon book explaining that Kenobi's investigation into a bombing on Cato Nemoidia eventually led to him being framed by Asajj Ventress and put on trial. A Skywalker disobeying orders as usual soon turned up on the planet to save his master, but in doing so he got in the way of Kenobi's own escape plan, hence why Obi-Wan felt it didn't count and Anakin thought it did. Either way, in my mind it still counts. Now I've got a quick question for you. What is your favourite Obi-Wan and Anakin moment from the movies or series? Or even from the books? You let me know in the comments section down below. Number 5. Why does General Grievous cough all the time? Now this one's a bit of a complicated one. Throughout the multiple lightsaber-wielding General Grievous' first and only big screen live-action appearance in Revenge of the Sith, the Separatist commanding officer could be heard spluttering and coughing his way across the galaxy. It's pretty common knowledge at this point that said coughing was actually none other than George Lucas himself, with the Star Wars creator coming into work with a cough and then using that real-life sound for the cyborg villain. But fans weren't really given an in-universe reason for said cough during Episode 3. However, this mystery was actually solved outside of the films, a few times in typical Star Wars fashion. One reason behind the coughing fits he regularly unleashes could be seen going down during the 2003 Clone Wars animated series, where the character originally debuted. An altercation with Mace Windu resulted in Grievous's chest being brutally force-crushed by the Jedi Master, a moment which later left him dealing with that painful cough. However, it was later noted in the Star Wars The Legacy Revealed documentary that Lucas originally intended the cough to be a way of highlighting how the prototype cybernetic technology of the time was imperfect when Grievous was first cyborged up, with his lungs actually being irritated by his implants. The tech was then later tweaked and improved by the time Anakin went full Vader, with that big bad only having to deal with heavy breathing rather than sounding like his guts were trying to escape his robo body. Number 4, where did the pod racers place in the Bunta Eve Classic? Now you're obviously well aware of who won the iconic Phantom Menace Bunta Eve Classic pod race, but one thing that isn't super clear in the picture itself is where the rest of the alien field placed. Despite starting off with a whopping 18 different racers, only 6 of these competitors actually finished the damn thing. Sebulba was obviously the most notable crasher, but Rats Tyrell, whose poor little family were watching on, actually lost his life in the perilous high-speed race. As for who followed Anakin Skywalker in first place though, second belonged to Gaz Garno, the 4-armed Zexto. Third to the Glimpfid Aldar Bido. Fourth to Ebe E. Endicott, who was a Triffian. Fifth to Flugrian Cam Nail, aka Elon Muck. And sixth place went to Sneevil racer Bowles Raw. Yes, they are the best names in sci-fi history, I agree. That solves one mystery then. And as for precisely how long it took Little Annie to win his freedom and the hyperdrive parts needed to get Qui-Gon and his pals off the planet, 15 minutes and 42 seconds was his impressive 3-lap time. Now that is pod racing! Number 3, where did Sabe go after Episode 1, The Phantom Menace? Sticking with the now 25-year-old Phantom Menace, we're getting so old. One important figure in that picture ultimately disappeared from our screens in the prequels that followed, and many fans were left wondering exactly what happened to the loyal handmaiden who pretended to be Queen Padme Amidala for much of that picture. Well, the answer to that particular Sabe mystery could be found in various canon novels and comic books. After the events of the Phantom Menace, Sabe carried on serving Amidala for the rest of her time as queen. She'd even free slaves on Tatooine during a mission she was sent on by the future wife of Anakin Skywalker, as shown in the Queen's Hope book. She'd then eventually choose to investigate Amidala's death with Naboo loyalists known as the Amidalans, following Padme's mysterious demise in Episode 3. All of this ultimately led to Sabe encountering none other than the former Skywalker himself, Darth Vader, who was conducting his own investigation into Amidala's death in his titular comic, with the one-time decoy and eventual rebellion member ultimately learning of his true identity and part in Amidala's passing, after clashing and even teaming with him at points. In the end though, this Padme doppelganger who still saw the Skywalker within Vader would seemingly suffer a similar fate as the former queen. Sabe's decision not to choose power, in other words join the dark side, or suffering when given these options by Vader, eventually led to her being thrown into the ocean by the Sith Lord. How rude. Put simply then, Sabe lived quite the life after Episode 1. Number 2, why did 3PO have a red arm? To say fans were a little confused by the sight of legendary protocol droid C-3PO rocking up in The Force Awakens with a new red arm would be a bit of an understatement. But while the answers to that particular limb mystery were not thrown into that big screen return to the galaxy far, far away, they were actually revealed not long after it blew up the box office. As told in the 2016 one-shot Star Wars C-3PO comic, 3PO and a few other droids actually found themselves in the middle of a resistance mission gone wrong. One that eventually saw the iconic droid's arm being ripped off by a tentacled beast on the planet Tol. From here, things get even worse when acid rain begins to rain down, with the only droid left standing with 3PO, Omni, ultimately giving his own life to ensure a distress beacon could be activated that would bring the protocol droid's resistance pals to him. In the end, all that was left of a disintegrated Omni was his left arm, so 3PO decided to use that as his own for a bit to honour his fallen friend. It's really sweet, isn't it? Number 1, what happened to Luke's green lightsaber? Outside of flashback sequences showing the iconic Jedi Master igniting his weapon to potentially strike down his own Padawan, Ben Solo, or when training his sister, Leia Organa, Luke Skywalker's green lightsaber is hardly seen throughout the sequel trilogy, and despite taking it with him to Ahch-To when Luke does actually pull out his laser sword in the present during The Last Jedi, that projected version of the legend is boasting his father's blue weapon on crate instead. And then after Luke's death here, it's never really noted on screen what actually happened to the reliable green lightsaber he forged after losing his pops in The Empire Strikes Back either. The lightsaber clearly wasn't picked up by Rey when she originally departed the island, so where did it end up? Well, it turns out that the matron of the island's caretakers, Alcida Orca, made sure that the sacred weapon was safely locked away in the island's repository, with that weapon being stored alongside Luke's star compass and the rest of the belongings he left behind after his demise. That's all according to the Star Wars The Last Jedi Expanded Edition novelization of the sequel film. There's worse places to store this iconic weapon than on the planet which was the birthplace of the entire Jedi Order, right? So now you know where it ended up. You're welcome.